Hi, this is Miss Cindy, and I'm back today. I am going to attempt to do a third puzzle. The first puzzle that I did, I Mod Podged it and I matted it and I preserved it in a frame. The second puzzle I did was a lot bigger, and I did an outline of the puzzle with a coarse pumice gel, and then I resined that one. And I have videos showing those two. Today I'm going to do something different. I'm going to attempt to do something different. This is another Egyptian puzzle. I purchased my puzzles from Zazzle, which is affiliated with Fujifilm, and they have the most brilliant color puzzles. So this one is not going to be as big as the last one. It's only 11 by 14 and it's only 252 pieces. But there's my puzzle. And whenever I do puzzles, I do put it together on a plexiglass. And that's just so once it's put together, I can go ahead and use my Mod Podge, and the pieces don't have to be moved. And I let it dry, and it's not sloppy. I'm pretty careful when I Mod Podge it. And then if it happens to stick a little bit, I go ahead and just use this tool, or you can use a spatula to just sort of pick it up and then put it wherever you want. So this one here, I'm going to attempt to do something different with it. I don't plan on hanging it. I'm not going to tell you until we get to that part. I'm also not going to sit here and have you watch me put this puzzle together because it may take me a couple of days. But when it's time to Mod Podge, I'll be back. Well, my puzzle is done. It only took a day, so that wasn't too bad. The little piece of plexiglass I had on there was a little bit too short, so I just put some parchment paper over it. So I'm still going to go ahead and Mod Podge it, but if it runs off on the ends, it'll be easy to get off. All I'm going to use is Mod Podge, and you can use a brush or a sponge. You can put on Mod Podge pretty much. It's just glue any way you want to put it on. But I always use my fingers because that just works for me. So I'm going to get this on. And I'm just going to go ahead and pour it. And just go ahead and cover the whole puzzle. And that's pretty much it. So you just want to make sure this is covered really good. I do press down a little bit because I want to make sure it gets in the creases. Make sure you get your edges. Okay, we're just going to wait for this to dry, and then you'll see what it looks like when it dries, and then what I'm going to do with it. Well, the puzzle has been Mod Podged and it's dried, and this is what it looks like. It's very pretty. I love the colors. I'm going to take this little tool just to make sure I can get it off of this paper. And then I will pull these edges off. I will cut those off with a razor blade. But anyway, that's what it looks like when it's Mod Podged. Now, this table is what I think I'm going to put it on. I'm going to do a tabletop with the puzzle. So I'm not going to start that yet, but what I will do is I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to Mod Podge the back, definitely getting along the edges And then I'm going to go ahead and get it where it's centered. I'm not going to do that yet because I have to do something with the sides. I'm just not going to leave it like that. So I've got to decide if I'm going to paint it or stain it or what I'm going to do with this. So I will come back once the top is decorated, and then I will show you how I will prepare it to be resined. That's going to be the hard part, is resin, and that's only because this does not have a sharp edge. It just has a rounded edge. And when I work with these tables, I have to tape it a certain way, building a dam so that the resin doesn't drip down the side. So when I get to that point, I'll be back. I decided what I was going to do with the top, and what I'm going to need I had to order online, so that's going to take a little while to get here. However, in the meantime, I had to clean this table up because it had scratches and nicks and a little bit of paint on it, because this is an old table too. It's not real expensive wood, so the easiest way for me to clean this up was I dusted it off real good, and I put just a drop of Dawn and some warm water in a bucket, and I just cleaned it down. The paint came off pretty easily, and I took a damp rag when I cleaned it off with the water, and then I came back with a dry towel and dried it all, so it's nice and clean. Then I have a golden oak stain, and I wanted to see if that would take some of the scratches away, because there was some scratches on this table, and it did. So I went ahead and stained the whole table, the legs and the top, and I'm going to let this dry while I'm waiting for the item to come in that I want to put on the top. And then I'll be back to show you how I'm going to tape it so I can resin it. I finished decorating the tabletop for the most part. This is all I'm going to do. And I just got some wood Egyptian heads. They're cutouts, laser cuts. And I just painted them black and glued them on there. And then I also got some basic letters that says Queens of Egypt. And I painted those black and glued those on there. When I glued these, I made sure that I glued around the edges. And you want to make sure, if you're going to use a mixed media like this, that you do glue the edges, because once you put the resin on, you don't want any additional air bubbles to show up around the edges. And they usually do with wood. So you want to make sure at least you get this nice and flat. The other thing I did was I got myself a guide. More experienced people with resin, they build dams using like plexiglass or some sort of plastic. I haven't advanced to that step yet. And so far, I just use tape and it works. But when I tape it, this is my guide here. And if you see, I'm going to build a dam around the whole entire table, but it has to be at least this height. And that's so that it will go over the wood letters. And I've had some success doing that. I don't do too much with wood letters, but the ones I've done, I've had success with. However, if you ever do something like this, you use the mixed media and you have this height and this height, different heights, and it doesn't cover the whole thing, it's okay. Because just like if you mess up and get air bubbles or you get dimples in resin, you just take a fine sander and just sand it down, wipe it off, and resin it again. And when you resin it again, it usually covers it. So I'm hoping I can get this done in one shot. Also, make sure that whenever you resin, everything is covered completely. A lot of people take the top off and they just do the top so they don't have to worry about the legs. But I wasn't taking this whole table apart for this. So as you can see, I went ahead and taped everything around the bottom. I'm hoping it does not run past the top. If it does, then I have to deal with it. but I'm hoping it stops on the top. I've done quite a few tables and I haven't had a problem. So I'm going to start taping. These are the tapes I'm going to use. This is all I'm going to need. I'm going to start taping. And I got my scissors to cut it to make sure it stays up. And then I'm going to resin it. And after I resin it, I will be back. Here's a quick shot after I taped it and made the dam all the way around. Here you will see, here's my guide right here. Because the puzzle is 1/8 and the highest wood embellishment is, no, I'm sorry, 1/16. The puzzle is 1/16, but the wood embellishment is 1/8. So that's where I have my guide, and as you can see, I took it all the way around. When you get to, by this being rounded, when you get to the edge, I'm pretty sure I'm going to have some resin drips on the side. Those I will just sand off. But for the most part, I will have to sand the whole thing anyway. But for the most part, I just didn't want any resin on the actual side lip of this top table. I also have my the laser beam here just to make sure it's even. You want to make sure if you ever resin anything that your surface is even so that it goes nice and smooth. You don't want it lopsided. So I just wanted to give you an idea how I taped the dam. And then once I tape my dam, I always come back with some shipping tape. And that's just to keep it in place because sometimes the your painter's tape is made to actually be removed easily. So I don't want this to start coming up in the middle of resining. So I always just go around and just put a layer of shipping tape. So that's just my technique to building a dam if I have to get a higher layer of resin to cover a surface. So now I'm going to resin it and I'll be back when I'm completely finished. Well, my table puzzle is resined and it's finished. However, I ran across a couple of problems where I'm going to have to correct. I don't know. This one did something different when I resined it. This would be my 4th table with the rounded edges. And I'm used to, let me see if I can show you. I'm used to getting like a thick line outline all the way around. And then I go ahead and sand it down. Well, this time, it looks like my dam pulled apart on the top and on the bottom. The sides stayed really secure. So I usually wait for resin to dry so that I can at least touch it. And then if I have to fix up something or, cut something off, I go ahead and do it then. And then I let it cure for the 2 or 3 days. So after the 8 hours when I could touch it, I pulled the tape off. And the tape actually pulled all of this resin off, including the small drips that came down here when it pulled apart. So this is perfect to the end. And it did the same on this end. So now the only sanding I have to do are the 2 sides because that's what I'm used to. Anyway, my biggest concern was that I wanted to make sure it covered the Egyptian heads, and it did cover the Egyptian heads. So this table is finished for the most part. I think I'm going to clean it up and re-resin it again so that it's just perfect all the way around. But this is just another idea of something that you can do with a puzzle. Have a great day and thank you.